about the myth of AI that AI understands, but it's not how it works. What is the capital of France? It can respond to us that it's Paris, and it's correct. But understand because it has not been to France.
The AI that matters every day.
The date the training data ended, it's when the training phase ended. So you cannot ask, it doesn't know about how is today's weather, what temperature is right now, how it was yesterday, how it was last week. It doesn't know anything of that because all the data it had, now it's not being trained because the training phase has ended when you are already using a model because you are in the inference phase. So we must give it like real data, actual data. So that's when they give it phrase data every day, like they put an extension or something in SoundCloud or ChatGPT. But most use cases now they use the web search tool. So to get that phrase data, they have inside a web search tool that you can see it when you ask Cloud in a chat about tell it to search anything in the internet, you can see that it appears web search tool. So it's using that web search tool to have actual data from today, yesterday, last week, and search anything online in the exact moment. So it doesn't just have the data it has been trained of. So it has this phrase actualized data. Then we're talking about the myth of AI that AI understands, but it's not how it works. You ask it a question, you give it a prompt, you send it a message to Cloud in here, and it finishes the most likely sentence. Word wide brute is what we talk about that it predicts. It does not understand. It just predicts the next word. So to understand it, let's put like an example. It doesn't just it does not comprehend, it just uses patterns. It predicts the next word and the patterns that it has from the millions of data that it has been trained of. So from all this data that it's huge, if you could see the amount, it's huge, it's so huge. Then from all the data, it analyzes the patterns, it finds all the patterns and everything, and then it predicts the word, what you are going to say and what it says, word by word. So if you ask it, for example, because it doesn't understand, it just like this. In this example, if we ask Cloud Code, for example, what is the capital of France? It can respond to us that it's Paris, and it's correct. But this knows it from all the data that it has been trained, and it has recognized that the capital of France is Paris from all the patterns that it has from the data. But it doesn't understand because it has not been to France, because it doesn't know about geography, and it just follows the patterns. And this is the most likely response from what's the capital of France. If the most likely response was Barcelona, then it would have said Barcelona. That's why it predicts, because it's the most likely response. And this, as is a general question, it knows it for sure. But if you ask it for a concrete book that it's in a language that it's not spoken around the world and it's not even in the internet, then it just might have like a few phrases and it will invent, like hallucinate, word for word, what is the most likely response. For example, if you ask it about the plot and it does just have 2 lines of data about that, it just will go like word per word following the pattern, what is the most likely word it will come next. And maybe that plot it has some things true and some things that it has hallucinated on. But in this example, as it has all the necessary data, this cannot happen. Then we have the difference between fluent and correct. What fluency proves is that it has a plausible, it sounds good word pattern, and you may think like it's correct all the time because it tells you in that language that it seems like he's always telling the truth, he's always right. But that is not what happens because fluent doesn't equal correct. because what it doesn't mean fluency is that the claim is true. It's just that it sounds plausible, not that it's true. That it understands the topic, it doesn't mean that, because as we saw, it may not understand what geography is, but it gives us this response as if it know it. And this doesn't mean that you can skip the check and not check for yourself. For basic data that each have a ton, maybe you don't have to check, but if you are using it for your business or for concrete data, it's recommended to check before, just a quick check, so to see if it was correct or if it hallucinated. That it doesn't mean that it lied, because lying implies knowing the truth, because if it doesn't know the truth, then it hallucinates. It likes invent what could be the best predictor, like the most likely response, because they cannot tell you I don't know, like a person would, because persons mistake a lot of times, and we also say I don't know it, I don't get it, I don't know it, I don't have the answer. And you probably have never heard an AI respond to you saying I don't know, because you may pay, or all these models want to be the best ones, and they cannot tell you that I don't know. If you have paid for 100 Pro Max or any subscription, they just do this, that it's hallucination. They predict the next word, and maybe they are right or they are wrong. So that's why you have to check or give it the enough context so that it only uses that context, and this way it cannot hallucinate. Or you put a skill that it can tell you if it doesn't know before hallucinating, and all this stuff. So now that we have gone through all the concepts of what AI is, the vocabulary that you need, through every phase it goes, now how can we use it? How can we use Cloud, ChatGPT, Gemini, Kimi, all these new models, all these apps, and then we have the models as we talk about it, like Sonnet 5, ChatGPT 5.6. So we have to use them correctly, because you can just put 3 words and hope that it does the thing that you have in mind. No, this is not how it works. First, we'll go through the basics of a good prompt. So here we have it, an anatomy of a good prompt. It has to have these 4 things. The role, that for example, if you give it the who it is, like who is, what is going to act from who. For example, you are a senior growth marketer specializing in B2B SaaS retention. You are a design expert in this field, like the role, who it is. Then you give it the task, what it needs to do. For example, write 3 emails on wording sequence design to educate new users on core features and reduce early churn. The more complex, the better you explain it, the better the output. So the task, for example, create a website for this, or help me find leads in here, or help me stay up to date about AI and write me an email, whatever. Then we have the context, that it's the data it needs, whether you have your second brain connected or not. For example, in this example we're launching a new tier for our project management app aimed at solo entrepreneurs. But our churn rate in the first 30 days is currently at 12%. So it's the context, the information it needs. If you ask it about your business, you must give it information about your business, because if not, it won't know who you are, what you do, and it will do it generally, but we want specific results for ourselves and for our projects or businesses. And the fourth part is the format. How do we want this? We want to send us an email, we want a PDF or just plain text, we want a table with rows and everything. How do we want it? An HTML file, for example, if we want a website. So in this case, output the response as a markdown table with columns for email, timing, days, post sign up, subject line, and core message body outline. So we have these 4 things: role, task, context, and format. with all these four things of a good prompt, the difference between a good prompt and a vague and a specific, if we follow this anatomy of a good prompt, if we don't follow it, we will get a vague response, a vague output from cloud or the LLM we are using. And we will tell it, for example, make it better without a role, without a format, without these four things. It's missing some of them, for example, a task, the role, or maybe the context, and it gives us random results that we do not want. And we just give a simple, super simple prompt, and we hope that he is so smart that it can read our minds. But this is not how it works. We have to give it this anatomy of a good prompt and give it the enough context and everything, so we have a specific result, and we see this amazing cloud code mascot in here. For example, you are an editor, no sé qué, specialized in what? You give it one clear task with the format that you want, and it lands it near done, almost perfect, or if it has done it in the first try, then amazing. If not, you tell it, you give it feedback, you did improve this, I wanted this, and save this so it doesn't happen again, and maybe create a skill so it knows how to do it, and keep improving in a self-improvement loop. So every time you get better results, not getting the baked response without with random results that we do not want. Now we'll look at zero shots versus a few shots. That it's a vocabulary inside the AI industry, inside the AI niche. For example, zero shots is when you not put examples. There are no examples in your prompt. In the anatomy of a prompt, you haven't added any examples. You just describe the goal and use maybe the role, the context, and everything we talk about, the four things in the anatomy of a prompt, but you do not give it an example. And it's faster, but most times it's even enough. You don't have to give it examples in every single prompt. But there are some use cases because maybe you want it to do a task but I'm not sure how to do it, and then you have to do the few shots that you have to paste 2 or 3 examples more or less. So now it writes more like those examples and it can learn from them, so it knows the styles that you want and the tone because it gets it from those examples. Because as you have put the examples, it knows that you want a similar result as those 2 or 3 examples. And this happens when you want it to perform a task and don't know how to describe it. So the best thing is putting examples, 2 or 3 more or less. It's called few shot. On not putting any, it's zero shot. Then why does examples matter? Because when you put an example, you show the input and the output to the large language model. Then when you put a second one, the model continues the pattern. It analyzes the input and the output and how it is that example. So it has 2 or 3 and it knows more or less how you want it. So it combines, it gets the information from all those 3 to create your own output. So a good example carries the style, the length, and the structure that you want. It teaches Cloud these 3 things. Then we have the section about being specific. It's important to be specific because if you are not specific, it's detail you do not specify. Cloud, for example, or the large language model, like in this image, it doesn't know what it has to find, so it just stays there. It takes a lot of time, it costs you more money, more tokens, and it has to be guessing because it thinks, well, he didn't tell me what really wanted, it's like too general, so I have to guess from which direction I have to specify. It might be this, that, but it's not focused on doing it right away. Now it's focused on guessing, on knowing what more or less you wanted to say and didn't actually say it in the prompt. So it takes a lot of more time and tokens, so it costs you more. Then each detail you specify is one the model no longer has to guess. As we can see in the second image, this one is focused on the task that you have given it. It knows for sure what it has to do, so it goes there and it starts right there. So it knows what it has to find, what it has to look, what it has to do, the output it has to give you, and it's much more faster. It doesn't waste tokens that didn't need to be wasted, and you have a better result because you have specified what you wanted. Because without specifying, you get a more general or a specification that maybe it was not the one that you had in mind. So instead of trying the AI, instead of giving the AI a prompt so it guesses, make that it cannot guess because you have written a so well written prompt that it cannot guess. So for this, like in writing, in typing, it takes a lot of more time than just via voice. That's why I have like a kick that it choose a whole AI voice assistant and a whole ecosystem app, but it has a thing inside it that you just hold two keys and talk, and it writes for you in exactly what you said, with commas, with punctuation marks and everything. And the names, it can write them, you can add vocabulary and everything. And you can also talk in English and it writes in Spanish. So I use that instead of typing because I go faster, I explain myself better. So if you want to use it, it's totally free. You have unlimited dictations, transcriptions, anything. You just go to kick.app, download the app, and that's it. You go there and you will find how to, you install it in just 5 minutes, and you hold the keys and it transcribes for you in any windows of the computer. And it also has an iOS app that in Apple Store you just search Kick, and it has a keyboard where you dictate and it transcribes for you. So it's the exact same thing from the laptop to your mobile phone. So these are some things worth specifying, that, as we said, we need to be specific about it, but these are the things that you need to specify. These are the important ones. For example, the first one is the length. If you want 3,300 words, 500 words, how much do you want it? 2 pages, 10 pages, a whole website, just a page of the website, whatever length you want, you have to specify it. Then we have the audience. Is it for a 10-year-old boy, or is it for older people, for people in their mid-20s? So you need to specify for who is it for. Then we have the tone. We want it in an angry tone, like this little crowd mascot. We want it in a formal style, in a casual style, whatever tone you want. Then you need to put the constraints. This is a very important part, because inside Cloud, in their website where they say how to use better their models, they put a lot in example prompts about things. They put not a lot. They put do not do this, do not do that, do not do these things. So it's important to tell it what it does not have to do, the constraints. Do not search in this website, do not add images, do not make it more than this, do not put names or important information that people shouldn't see about it, like my phone number, what it does not have to do, the constraints. And then the last thing, what it can exclude, what to exclude. Like, do not put this, do not look at this part in my second brain, do not talk about this topic inside it, instead talk about this. So with these 5 things, these are the most important things you need to be specific about to get the best results.
That's how I build. One person and every AI in public. The AI that matters every day.